This is DJ the Prodigy Pen, and you're listening to the Ringside Report.
Hey, this is Cain Velasquez, and you're listening to Ringside Report Radio.
This is Chuck Liddell, and you're listening to the Ringside Report.
Hi, he's Wanderlei the Ex-Murder Silva, and you listen Ringside Report Radio.
This is Tito Ortiz, the People's Champ, and you're listening to Ringside Report Radio.
This is Uriah Faber, the California Kid, and you're listening to the Ringside Report.
This is Randy, the Natural Couture, and you're listening to the Ringside Report.
Hi, this is Vito Belfer, and you're listening to Ringside Report Radio.
This is Chael Sonnen, and you are listening to Ringside Report Radio.
This is Jacques Saint-Pierre, and welcome to Ringside Report Radio.
Hope you're ready for the next episode. Hey.
It's the one and only Digo Double G.
All right, welcome to the program. We are live. It is TSN 690. I am Dave Simon. Welcome to Ringside Report Radio. Fred Garcia is here with me. Anthony D'Alesio is here with us as well. We've got a packed house, and we've got a lot to get to here tonight. Covering a lot in the world of MMA, of course, as we always are. We had some UFC last weekend in the city of London, and Fabricio Werdum going down hard at the hands of Alexander Volkov. Knocked out the former heavyweight champion, Volkov, with maybe the biggest win of his career. What's next for the big Russian? We'll try and break that down. UFC 223 coming up in a couple of weeks' time. That means we have no UFC show tomorrow night, no UFC show next week. We get a little bit of a break from the UFC until they come back with UFC 223 in Brooklyn, New York. Max Holloway. No, wait, not Max Holloway. Khabib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson. I don't know why I'm thinking about Max Holloway. It's that Frankie Edgar fight that never happened. I'm still thinking about Holloway. But it is Khabib and Ferguson and Rose Namajunas taking on Joanna Jędrzejczyk in a big-time fight card in 2 weeks' time, and that's the next big one from the UFC. Fred, are you excited for this one? This one's the next big UFC. Khabib, Tony Ferguson. Are you feeling a buzz for this fight?
Well, personally, for sure, I'm excited. I mean, Tony Ferguson and Khabib, that's the lightweight championship of the world right there.
That's it.
I mean, it's not Conor McGregor. He's not here. He's boxing or he's partying. I'm not sure what he's doing, but he's not fighting MMA. So, as far as I'm concerned, Tony versus Khabib, that's for the title right there.
And it's not just for the title. It's not just the two best guys in the division that are currently fighting. But I think it's two guys that could be big stars for the UFC, and I think it's two guys that are becoming stars in the UFC. Khabib, I believe, has a star power that is building and building, and if he beats Tony Ferguson and then maybe gets the fight with Conor, we could see another big star in the UFC. Khabib, he speaks English with an accent. He's a Russian guy from Dagestan, but he speaks well enough, and he's a pretty articulate guy. He's a funny guy.
But also,
and he says some pretty wild things. I think Khabib could be a star.
And also the UFC wants to go into the Russian market, so having a Russian champion would be great for them. Russia's a big country.
For sure, but I can they could have done it before with Fedor, right? That was like their Russian champ. That was
they never got a contract, done with Fedor, unfortunately, for whatever reason. But I mean, Khabib being under contract right now, he's important to the UFC. I would more compare him to like a Michael Bisping back in the days where Bisping helped build MMA in Britain. Well, Khabib could do that in Russia for the UFC.
Yeah. I think he definitely could. I think Khabib could be a big star for that company. Listen, it all depends on what happens with Tony Ferguson. I think Ferguson could be a big star as well, but I don't think he's going to have a country behind him like Khabib will. And that counts as far as numbers and money for the UFC.
Yeah, but you got to make him cool, right? Like the thing with Khabib, it's simple. You got to keep showing those videos of him wrestling the bears and that kind of stuff. People got to build up to this guy's hype. Like this guy's wrestled bears, so you got to make that mystique about him. Other than wearing his that crazy hat, which is pretty cool in my opinion. But he's a dominant fighter, and I don't think he's going to beat Ferguson. That's my opinion.
You don't.
I don't think so. I don't think he has it. If it goes to the ground, it's not like Ferguson. Ferguson is probably one of the most balanced fighters of all in the UFC. I think he can handle. I think he can handle the ground game, but I don't think the Bear is going to be able to handle Ferguson's fight.
So you're saying you think that Tony Ferguson is going to be able to handle the ground game of Khabib when no one else has been able to handle what Khabib's thrown at them? No one else. Khabib is undefeated. And I'd also like to point out something I saw, I think, at some point this week. It was a meme of Kevin Lee in a full mount position on Tony Ferguson that says, "Remember, Khabib, even Kevin Lee mounted Tony Ferguson."
Exactly. There you go.
Well, that proves my point, Anthony.
Yeah, he can mount him, but he can't close him. That's the difference. It's like, I can open the door, but if I don't go through it, it doesn't mean anything, right?
If Kevin Lee is mounting you, what is Khabib Nurmagomedov going to do to you?
I'll tell you what's going to happen.
Smashing is going to happen.
Exactly.
It's
That's
Khabib
exactly
time. It's Khabib time.
No, what? Excuse me, man.
Yeah.
It's going to be like
Fred.
The Bear is going to sleep, man.
Is
That's
it
what I
Khabib
say.
time or is it not Khabib time? In my opinion, I feel like this is the crowning of Khabib, and it's going to be a tough fight. I understand Anthony's point. Tony Ferguson's got good jiu-jitsu, and he's probably a better stand-up fighter than Khabib.
Oh, for sure.
But the overwhelming that Khabib has been to everybody he's faced, the way he's ragdolled Rafael Dos Anjos, the way he ragdolled, who did he fight in his last fight? Barbosa? Tossed him around.
Yes, exactly.
Tossed him around like it was easy. Khabib has demolished guys. He's beat guys by such a wide margin, it looks like the guy doesn't even belong in the same octagon with Khabib. Ferguson wins, but he doesn't make it look so one-sided that the other guy is so demoralized and believes he has no shot to ever win. And that's what I'm impressed by with Khabib, is that his style and his skill just demoralizes his opponents.
And I like what you bring there, because if anything, Tony Ferguson's very resilient, and Tony Ferguson is dangerous throughout the fight. Yes, his fights aren't as dominant as Khabib, but Tony Ferguson's a very legit fighter in there. He's very dangerous. I'm with you. I think Khabib's going to win that fight, but I'm not I'm not giving any shot to Tony Ferguson. I'm thinking Tony Ferguson's definitely very dangerous.
Fred, one thing for sure, we got to always remember that 5 of Ferguson's last 6 fights have earned him Performance of the Night. So
just because you win Performance of the Night,
but
doesn't mean anything.
Sure,
really.
it does.
It's about winning.
It's about winning. It's about winning, but you're
Khabib
performing. That means he's stepping up.
Won.
He's stepping it up, and he's coming to fight.
What that means is, on his way to a victory, he probably gets hit a bunch of times. That's what that means.
Sure, that's fine.
That's
but
what
he still wins.
Performance of the Night in the UFC, Fight of the Night in the UFC is not when one guy dominates another with amazing technique. Fight of the Night bonuses in the UFC is Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Ooh, I like that. Okay,
that's how they give their bonuses.
Look,
right, Fred, am I wrong about that? Like the fights of the night that you see, the fights that are given like, oh my god, this was amazing, for the most part, it's 2 guys smashing each other, hitting each other, they're both bloody and bruised by the end of the night, and you say, wow, what a crazy fight. And yes, for sure, but just because you win that bonus does not necessarily mean you're an amazing dominant fighter. Yeah, but in a lot of cases it means the opposite.
Yeah, but that's what builds fan base, right? He comes out to fight.
Fan base and winning are 2 different things.
But he still wins. He's up there, man. The
UFC doesn't want to sign Ben Askren, and he's one of the most dominant, one-sided, undefeated welterweights on the planet.
That's going to happen. I could put my money down that Askren's coming in, and he's probably going to end up fighting GSP. That was my take.
Yeah,
They've been saying that for a while. It's
I don't think
happen.
George will want to fight it, but let's
never,
think out.
ever in your life.
It's going to happen.
No.
September, October this year, man. We're going to see it.
Bet.
Look, we got to do it again.
Bet.
I'm gonna
Anthony,
be
right now, we're putting money down. That is outrageous. Ben Askren will not get a shot at GSP. It's not happening.
Fred, Dave, you guys said the same thing about Rousey when I said she was going to get knocked out faster than you can blink.
I don't know about that.
Hey, man, that's it.
That's a long time ago.
We're going way too back in time.
Yeah, predict something current, all right? Predict something more current, and
GSP
then we can talk.
September, October.
Yeah, you just predicted that. It's outlandish. It's ridiculous.
Okay.
All right, let's stick to Tony Ferguson. You see, I give him a shot. Tony Ferguson has defeated some good people. If anything, Kevin Lee's a good, big, strong wrestler. Of course, he's not Khabib, but defeating also Rafael Dos Anjos, Edson Barbosa, Josh Thompson. I mean, Tony Ferguson's on a good streak. I see him on like a 8-9 winning streak right now. So I'm not going to sell him short like you do.
No.
You seem to not give him a shot here.
I'm not selling him short. I just see that...
Like, Khabib needs to make weight. He needs to be able to show up to the fight. You know, he might be 25-0, but how many times did he not show up?
Ferguson can definitely win this fight. I just don't think he will. I think Khabib will.
I'm with you. I got Khabib, but you know I'm not just gonna say Khabib is the greatest. Blah. Like Khabib still have things to prove. First of all,
I'll tell you what.
Consistently being able to show up on weight. You know?
Khabib, I'll tell you that. Khabib will beat Tony Ferguson, but if he fights Conor McGregor, he's going to sleep.
I'm going to tell you what, Dave.
He's going down. Conor would knock him out.
If Ferguson loses, I'm buying you Khabib's hat. I'm going to buy you that hat.
Yes. Really?
That's a good deal.
You, man.
That's a great deal.
And
Can I have one?
What do I have to do
Fred,
if Ferguson
because you're on
wins?
the cusp.
Nothing?
Hey?
Nothing?
Fred was
There's
on the cusp.
But I mean, that hat's so cool, man.
It is pretty cool.
Like, I need one.
No, sorry, Fred. I'll let you wear it.
I might go on strike for the rest of the show.
So where?
It's like a water buffalo hat. Like, you remember from Flintstones? The same thing, man.
Okay. Well, look. When Khabib beats Tony Ferguson, I look forward to you buying me that hat, and then I'll wear it on the show. I'll wear it on the show. And if Tony Ferguson wins...
Yeah, what do we do here?
What do we do? I buy you the hat, and you have to wear it around.
No, it's
Wait,
not
that
the
doesn't
same.
make any
sense.
sense.
Doesn't.
I bet those hats are pretty expensive, by the way.
That's
Like,
true.
I'm not even sure where you could buy it.
All right. Well, what should I do? What should I have to give up? What should I have to do
as a wager
for Anthony if Tony Ferguson wins? Should I have to start calling him AJ on the show?
Oh, that's right.
Give
that's
him
a
an
good
hour
point.
of a special Luke Rockhold show.
No, I'm not doing that. That's,
come on.
No,
We've done
because,
it before.
Because that's not a punishment for me in so much as it is for the listeners. They don't want to hear that.
No, but wait a second.
They don't want to hear Anthony gush about Luke Rockhold for an hour.
Thank you very much for reminding me. That was the second prediction that came out. Remember I said Rockhold was going to be champion.
That's what he wants.
Man.
You know it, Dave.
You said Rockhold
I like to get Rockhold
was
on the
going to
show,
be
man.
champion?
Yeah,
you said
remember
Rockhold
that?
was going to be champion in 2018. How's that looking
no,
for you?
No, man. I said that. Remember, Fred? That was 2 years ago.
You also said Rockhold will beat Yoel Romero. How's that looking for you?
Listen, things happened, but I still called it 2 years ago.
Things happened. Like
How
I
about
predict things that are wrong.
Hey?
Okay. Well, you come up with something that you want. I want the Khabib hat. Okay, that's what I want.
I got it.
What?
You get Rockhold on the show.
He's already been on the show. Do you know I've met Luke Rockhold, Anthony? Are you jealous?
Yeah, I am.
He's jealous. Why are you jealous? He's a man. I met a man, and you're jealous about that.
Hey, listen, man, that's fine. But is he as big as he looks?
He's huge.
Yeah, because I saw Vito Belfort not too long ago, and he was
Vito
way
Belfort.
bigger. Yeah, I like
Vito. You've made him Italian.
He is.
Vito?
Belfort.
Vitor.
Manager Marco, is he Italian? Vitor.
Okay.
Vittorio Belforte.
All right, we got to talk about Canelo Alvarez because he's been suspended by the Nevada Athletic Commission, and our buddy Matt Casavant is going to check in and give us an update on that story because we talked to Matt last week, and Canelo was not suspended, and the fight was still on. Now the Nevada Athletic Commission has suspended him, but is the fight still on? Matt will try to explain this to us when we come back. It's Ringside Report Radio on TSN 690.
Yeah, my relative, black cherry soda, pistol when poverty, come get the note. Get top on the phone.
Hey, this is Cain Velasquez, and you're listening to Ringside Report Radio. Hi, this is Sander Borowski, and you're listening to Ringside Report Radio.
This is Tyron Woodley, and you're listening to Ringside Report Radio.
Welcome back. It is Ringside Report Radio. I am Dave Simon, Fred Garcia, and Anthony D'Alesio in the house here with me live on TSN 690. Cousin Marco in the house as well, the muscle. Marco the muscle. And Marco, I think, like the intern now? I think Marco's our intern. Is that like the official title? Or I don't know. He's got a coffee mug. He's our coffee boy.
Manager Marco.
Boy. He's our gopher. You know? Go for some more coffee.
Cameraman soon.
Yeah, he's our cameraman soon, right? We got a whole video screen set up, and at some point, we're going to be maybe live on the internet, and then you'll see us during the show. But
YouTube
I don't know
stars.
if we want to do that.
Sure, man. YouTube stars. That's exactly what we should be doing.
YouTube stars?
Used to will be YouTube's stars.
Can you say YouTube?
YouTube's.
No, YouTube.
Used to.
You sound sort of British all
No,
of a
I
sudden.
was trying to get that cameo from my cousin Vinny, but it didn't work.
Yeah, I got
You remember
it.
that? Used to. The Utes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that, but it didn't work. It didn't work at all. That was
It was funny in my head. Anyways.
It did not land. That joke did not land. Let's have Matt Casavant come save us from Anthony's pit of despair. Matt, how are you, my man?
Poor Anthony, 2 consecutive weeks right before I go in. You guys are harping on the guy.
Thanks,
well,
man.
here's the thing with Anthony that people might not understand. Me and Fred might pick on him a little bit, but Anthony's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu and a black belt in some other things. Like, if Anthony really wanted to, he could just destroy me and Fred. Like, he could just mop the floor with us. So he's a good sport, you know?
That's always good.
Anthony's a good man. Canelo Alvarez, is he a good man? What's happening with him? He failed the drug test. It seemed like it wasn't going to have any impact on the fight, but now the Athletic Commission in the state of Nevada has suspended him temporarily.
Yeah, Dave, we're sort of dealing with breaking news here. As it only happened a few hours ago, Bob Bennett officially from the Nevada State Athletic Commission suspends Canelo Alvarez at least temporarily until April 10th, pending a final review whether or not the fight would happen on Cinco de Mayo weekend. It's a huge news, of course, as we talked about last week. We knew about the positive test. It's already been a few weeks ago, but no decision seemed like it was coming from the Nevada State Athletic Commission. But I think they were kind of forced here to make some sort of move based on Golovkin's comments this week, because regardless of Golovkin's willingness to fight Canelo, regardless of the result of Canelo's positive test for clenbuterol, I think Golovkin gave so much pressure to the Nevada State Athletic Commission, citing some of the preferential treatment he seems that Canelo had in their first fight. When you looked at, of course, the disputed draw, the Adelaide Bird judge assignment, and then you're looking at Golovkin's comments, and they were very hard and harsh towards the Nevada State Athletic Commission. They did a final, not a final, but a pending review this week, and they make a decision tonight to temporarily suspend him up until April 10th, and that puts the rematch in serious jeopardy at this point.
Yeah, so Canelo is basically going to have to plead his case in front of the Athletic Commission and, I guess, prove that this failed drug test was due to tainted meat. Is he going to have to provide a piece of meat, literally, that they can test? Like, is he going to have to present some sort of case that they can then judge him on, or is it just to give him a talking to?
Well, that's a good point, Dave, and we'll know more in the following hours and days leading up until, of course, that review. But Golden Boy says that they'll bring evidence and a case towards the Nevada State Athletic Commission that there's really been evidence of the past Mexican fighters testing positive for this drug, and mostly because the fact that clenbuterol is allowed by Mexican farmers. So there's precedent for that, and they might have a case here with Canelo, they say, has been tested in the past over 85 times and has never tested positive. So this, they say, is just purely accidental, and it was definitely not deliberate. So it'll be interesting. I mean, the cynic in me says that regardless of whether or not Canelo did this intentionally, I think the fight is going to happen because there's just so much money at stake here for a rematch. But at the same time, if you are a fan, and Nevada attracts in Las Vegas fans from across the country, from across different stages of the world. If you've booked a flight, if you've booked tickets for this fight, hotels, and you're now looking at Canelo being suspended up until April 10th, it definitely gives some pause as to whether or not you should think about canceling before, of course, the payments come in. And I think that will bring a lot of doubt and uncertainty to this fight. And if it were not to happen, it's going to put a big black eye on the sport. But Canelo put himself in this bad position, and who knows right now whether or not he's lying or if his excuse is legitimate.
Would it be unfair to describe the commission basically it feels like they're telling Canelo, give us a reason to believe you right now? Because if they wanted to suspend him and be harsh on him, they have a case right here.
I agree, Freddie, 100%. It's going to be on Canelo and his team. It's not going to be him directly, but mostly Golden Boy and the promotion company to really build a case here to say, well, listen, we have some evidence that suggests that this is just purely accidental, but who knows? I mean, at this stage, it's really, I think, a toss-up. I think Golovkin, because he wants this fight to happen, is going to have of course, is saying it. And I think the Nevada State Athletic Commission might be doing this just a little bit to save face because of all the criticism they've had as being somewhat corrupt or, showing favoritism towards Canelo. By temporarily suspending him, at least it looks good that they're trying to make some sort of fair play here. But I do think the fight is going to go on. But Canelo and his team in Golden Boy are going to have to bring at least some sort of evidence because it looks like Bob Bennett, at least initially here, is not pleased by what he's found in the initial evidence of the case.
So you're breaking it down exactly the way I'm seeing it, Matt. I see it as this PR move by the Nevada Athletic Commission. It's a slap on the wrist for Canelo. He's going to have to come in. He's going to have to say, oh, it's tainted meat. I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to, whatever. And the fight is still going to go on. It's a temporary suspension for a guy who doesn't have to fight until the 5th of May, and his suspension lasts until April 10th. So I just see the state of Nevada saying, yes, Canelo, you will still be able to fight. Whether he was cheating or not, I think that fight is going to take place because there's so much money on the line. It's Canelo and Triple G. It's the rematch. It's the fight of the spring for boxing. It's got to happen, and they could get all the failed drug tests in the world, all the failed samples that they want. This fight is still going to go down.
It's probably the case, but due to the fact that the hearing is going to be April 10th, that's going to be less than a month out from the actual fight. It at least puts some drama into the training camp of Canelo. He can't be pleased of having to deal with this in the middle of the biggest fight of his career, a rematch of a fight that many, and I think fairly, thought he lost to Golovkin, even if it was for a draw on the decision, the official scorecards. So it does put a lot of question marks into the rematch, but if it does go on here and the Nevada State Athletic Commission rules that the fight will happen based on the evidence at the final hearing on April 10th, there's going to be a lot more people, I think, interested, and there's going to be a lot more people hoping Golovkin wins by knockout against Canelo because there's this good guy, bad guy angle right now developing between the two. But, I mean, Canelo can be pleased about having to deal with this, especially if it was true that it was just tainted beef. But he put himself in this position. There's also been visual evidence since we last spoke last week of after the initial weigh-in of the first fight where Canelo was definitely seen taking some pills. We don't know what the pills were, but Golovkin used that as evidence to say he might have even been cheating leading up into the first fight. So really it's tough to say. Clenbuterol, even if it was willing or not for Canelo to take it, it gives him an advantage theoretically for stamina and endurance, which is key in the fight game. Just ask McGregor against Mayweather. So there's a lot at stake here for this hearing. It's going to be very dramatic and very interesting as to what unfolds.
If you're Golovkin, like you said, most people think he won the first fight pretty handily. And right now, like you say also, Canelo has to deal with all of this. So if you're Golovkin, you maybe kind of love this situation because he could concentrate on his training, I guess, right now. He has to answer a couple of questions here and there, but he won't have to go in front of the commission or anything. So if you're Golovkin, hey, you stick to your game plan, I say.
Of course. And, Matt, did you say that Canelo was caught taking pills on the weigh-in stage in front of people?
Yeah, there's actually been visual evidence that has emerged from people, of course, now with cameras nowadays after the weigh-in. This wasn't seen, of course, initially, but people leaked videos of Canelo definitely getting pills from his assistant coach after the weigh-in and immediately taking some pills. But, of course, we can't know for sure what those pills were. But Golovkin has said that based on that evidence and also pictures, he says, from doctors, independent doctors, after Canelo tested positive, apparently sent pictures to Golovkin of the first fight where there seems to be some marks of needles that might have been, some say, linked to injections that could be due to steroids. So there's a whole lot right now of evidence that is kind of mounting towards Canelo, which in Golovkin might involuntarily take him out of the biggest payday of his career, because if the Nevada State Athletic Commission rules that Canelo is not going to be allowed for this rematch, Golovkin has the Billy Joe Saunders fight as a backup plan, which is a very good fight. Billy Joe Saunders is the best middleweight after these two, but it doesn't come close to nearing the attention and the draw of a Canelo-Golovkin rematch. Not even close.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's really heard of Billy Joe Saunders. Outside of the hardcore boxing fans are going to know who he is, but he's not
and
translating.
Locally, because he defeated David Lemieux in December by a kind of unanimous decision, and not only unanimous, but some would say a shutout decision. But you're right, though. Overall, Billy Joe Saunders doesn't translate to mainstream interest nearly as much as Canelo does.
Now, Matt, I just want to ask you real quick because a story came through this week from the Telegraph in England. I don't know if you caught this, but apparently the UFC, Dana White, they're trying to get into boxing promotion, and they offered heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua $500 million. That's $500 million for a multi-fight deal. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I saw that. And the Telegraph, though, is kind of hit and miss sometimes with their sources. But clearly Dana White, with the event last year of McGregor-Mayweather, talked about making a move eventually towards boxing. Dana loves boxing. He was a boxing fan in the 90s for the Mike Tyson days in the late 80s. So it would make sense for him to make a big splash with an Anthony Joshua signing. But Anthony Joshua and Matchroom, his current promoter, of course, came out and said that he's sticking around and he's not going anywhere. But it'll be interesting. Even Francis Ngannou this week was talking about possibly fighting Anthony Joshua. So there seems to be some, rumors. And Anthony Joshua is going to be probably the biggest draw right now in the entire sport if you look from a global standpoint. Not as much in North America as of yet, but being the heavyweight champion of the world, having 3 of the 4 belts, Deontay Wilder having the WBC belt, the only one missing from Joshua's collection, if you will. And I think he'll be linked to fights. And if Dana White and UFC were to make a move, Anthony Joshua is probably the first-round pick to go get.
Yeah, but still, I find like $500 million being offered by the UFC is sort of an insult to all the fighters that are fighting for like a fraction of that. So I just find that.
Yeah, but that's what this guy's worth. That's what he's going to get on pay-per-view.
Yeah,
you know?
but
this is what Anthony Joshua's worth. You're trying to lure a big star away, and they figure they're going to make their money back on their return.
Stick to MMA. The same thing. Exactly. The same way we tell Conor to stick to MMA. Please. Zuffa, stick to MMA.
I think that's a good call. Matt Casavant, it's always good talking to you, my man.
All right, take care, gentlemen.
There he is, Matt Casavant. Always good dropping in, giving us a little knowledge as far as the boxing game goes. What do you guys think of that? The UFC may be opening a boxing promotion. I would much rather if Dana White concentrated his efforts, kind of like what Fred is saying. Stick to MMA, stick to the UFC, stick to making that product as good as possible, rather than opening a boxing promotion where, Matt said Francis Ngannou has called out Anthony Joshua, but he's not the only guy in the UFC. Junior Dos Santos, even the heavyweight champion, Stipe Miocic, they're coming out on social media saying, Anthony Joshua, let's fight, let's do this in a boxing ring. So we're taking away from these UFC fighters, these heavyweights in that division that isn't that deep to begin with, and you're maybe throwing them into boxing where you don't see them in MMA for a while. I don't understand this idea or this way of doing business where the UFC takes their biggest stars and they have them box other boxers and lose. I don't understand why the UFC thinks that's a good idea long term, because it winds up taking their biggest stars, giving them one big payday against a boxer, and then maybe they never come back. So how good is that for the UFC?
I don't know. There's something going on behind the scenes, that's for sure. That started with McGregor, from way back. When I saw the Zuffa brothers at the fights and they started their own boxing promotion. So there's something going on. Zuffa is involved again on the boxing side, and Dana White is... There's something brewing. There's no doubt about it.
Well, as far as the UFC right now, they want to make some money, so that's why we're seeing Conor McGregor. They invested so much money into buying the UFC. Right now, they're trying to get a cash back. But I agree. $500 million for one boxer seems to me a little ridiculous. Why would
it's for a multi-fight deal, which could mean anything.
A lot of things could happen. You could lose.
That's an insult, man. To Miocic, think of it. How much did he make on his last fight? Cormier made $600,000? Seriously? That's a huge insult. But if I was an MMA fighter, and there's talks about the union stuff and all this kind of stuff, so you're now you're adding fire to go towards that way.
All due respect, Anthony, if these guys were generating that type of money, then they'd have something to negotiate with. But the fact of the matter is, the Daniel Cormiers of the world, as great as they are, they're not selling pay-per-views like some of these top boxing names. And it would probably be
two different companies. Zuffa Boxing is a new company where they would be Zuffa Boxing Promotions or whatever. It would have nothing to do with the MMA scene.
So it goes back to what I said a couple of weeks ago. Maybe the future of the sport is to have that hybrid of boxing and MMA at the same time. Maybe that's what they're looking at. They're looking at like new angles.
See, they're going the wrong way. I believe that the best way to do it, the best amalgamation of two combat sports would be MMA and pro wrestling. I think if you had one company that owned both, it would work very well. You guys are laughing, but listen to me. Ronda Rousey. True. She had her MMA career done. She goes to WWE. She can have a long career in pro wrestling. She can be a star. If you own both companies, you're making money off Ronda Rousey on both ends, and she can go back and forth. Same with Brock Lesnar.
CM Punk. Yep.
If you're a pro wrestler and you want to go fight MMA, it's going to sell pay-per-views. True. Okay? It works. And if you're an MMA fighter and you want to go into pro wrestling, a lot of the time, and more these days, it works. It's worked in Japan for years. A lot of their wrestlers, the pro wrestlers I'm talking about, before they can even be pro wrestlers, they have to take a couple MMA fights.
See, that's the thing.
Like, they have to be able to fight for real. They're trained in grappling and striking and everything to be real fighters before they can be pro wrestlers. And the two worlds are a lot closer together. Sakuraba was a professional wrestler and then became one of the greatest Japanese MMA fighters of all time. The worlds are much closer in Japan than they are anywhere else, and I think it's a good way to do it because you can make money on both ends with the pro wrestling side and then bam on the MMA side as well.
Look, you make a lot of good points. If I had my way, I would just say I would want MMA to replace pro wrestling, have guys with a lot more character in MMA.
Yeah, but the problem is you can't do that. It just won't work. You can't have MMA just replace pro wrestling. Life. Yeah, but you can't have these guys out there as often as the pro wrestlers are. In MMA, the shelf life is too short. It doesn't work.
It's two different things, but you bring good points. I see the crossover. There's been a lot of it over the years.
Yeah, and it continues, and it's not stopping at any point. Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler were both UFC fighters whose careers came to an end, and they're now in the WWE. Ronda on the main roster and Shayna on NXT in the developmental.
Look, of course, there could be crossovers on both sides. You know, guys in MMA, their career's pretty much done, or girls as of Ronda, but we've seen before Ken Shamrock. We've seen different guys go, Tank Abbott.
Brock is coming back to the UFC, by the way. Brock,
exactly. So
the current WWE Universal Champion, who's going to drop the title in 2 weeks' time to Roman Reigns, the big dog. When he does that, he's going back to MMA training, and he's coming back to the UFC. Brock is the best example of going from amateur wrestling to pro wrestling to the UFC, back to pro wrestling, back to the UFC, back to pro wrestling, and now back to the UFC. That's literally what he's done.
Look, but we're MMA fans here, so, you know, we're happy to see Brock. We're happy to see all these people fight in MMA. As far as the boxing discussion, I think it's mostly also because we're not that much of a boxing fan. So, you know, we don't want to
I'm more of a pro wrestling fan than
exactly.
a boxing fan.
We don't want to see the UFC wasting their time, as far as we're concerned, into the boxing scene.
I don't need to see it.
Look, I mean, the only thing that was exciting about that whole thing was McGregor. So McGregor, that was the only thing that I wanted to see. If I had to see anything, McGregor, Mayweather, I'll see it again, like I've been saying for the last week. But that's about it.
But that's it.
But Anthony Joshua in MMA, come on, let's be serious.
No, Anthony Joshua boxing under the Zuffa UFC umbrella, whatever it may be, and then Anthony Joshua potentially bringing out some UFC heavyweights to fight him in a boxing match. You're talking about Stipe Miocic versus Anthony Joshua in a heavyweight boxing contest, which, you know, it's okay. I'd watch it, of course, but I'd rather see Stipe Miocic fight Daniel Cormier in July. That's a fight that I would much prefer seeing. And then if Stipe wins that, I want to see Stipe fight Cain Velasquez or Brock Lesnar or whoever in MMA, because Stipe is an MMA fighter, and I'm a fan of guys and women doing what they do best. And Stipe is an MMA fighter. That's what he does best.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe he's a better firefighter, but I don't need to watch him fight fires, okay? I know Stipe is a full-time fireman, which is crazy. You know, like what other sport? You know, Stipe Miocic is a heavyweight. He's the heavyweight champion of the world. Okay, Daniel Cormier is the light heavyweight champion of the world. Those guys headlined a pay-per-view together, right?
Right.
They both have side jobs. Stipe is a fireman. Daniel Cormier is a commentator. You don't think he makes money doing those jobs?
For sure.
That helps pay the bills. When's the last time you saw LeBron James work in a firehouse?
Yeah,
When's the last time you saw Sidney Crosby doing the color commentary on a hockey game?
Yeah, but he does Tim Hortons. That's what he does.
It's because LeBron James and Sidney Crosby are similar to George St. Pierre and Conor McGregor. You don't see Conor McGregor with a second job. He doesn't need a say. Neither does George.
You don't really see any professional athletes in other sports.
Of course. Come on.
Two jobs?
No, but I mean, a lot of guys cross over to retire from football to become analysts.
True.
Retire.
Well, I mean,
he's
for almost 40.
Job.
Daniel Cormier is close to retirement. Michael Bisping.
He's an active champion. He's a light heavyweight champion.
And you'll see some active guys also.
Yeah, but he's a really good broadcaster,
too.
too.
You're being hard right now.
Cormier is really good. Oh, yeah. There's a fight coming down.
During the playoffs in different sports, you'll see guys that their team is out of the
spot or two.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what Daniel Cormier does.
No, Daniel Cormier does that UFC show weekly.
But he
does the pay-per-views on commentary.
He's making good money doing both, I bet.
I think he's smart. I think he already has a future after he retires on his next fight. That's what it comes down to.
Sure,
as a fireman, once you're a fireman, you're always a fireman.
I'm not knocking it. I'm just pointing out that the current heavyweight champion of the world is also a fireman.
Dave's going to get tacked. He's getting nervous. I can see it.
Listen. Yeah, I'm real nervous. Super nervous.
No, listen.
Here.
Well, I mean, both of you guys should team up. You know, you were bringing up union discussions earlier.
Yeah.
Now Dave wants to spend more money on all the fighters. So, you know, I'm here just saying let them do their business, man. Everybody gets what they're worth.
Sure. No, but you're right. And that's the problem. And I agree with both of you there. There should be. I just find it the salaries have to be raised.
It's weird that the heavyweight and light heavyweight champion of the world, they both have second jobs. A lot of the champions in the UFC have secondary forms of income.
Yeah.
Most of them, if you're looking at it. Tyron Woodley works for TMZ. Demetrius Johnson.
I mean, so does Dana.
I mean, the old school
Why
guys.
you think he's into boxing, man? He needs to make end meet. You know, come on, man.
Yeah, I guess
Dana's struggling out there. It's hard for everybody.
Yeah.
All right.
Really.
Well, it's hard for Dana White. Do you guys want to see a 165-pound title in the UFC?
Yep.
Are we adding new divisions?
Let's hope so.
Well, we'll get to that in a little bit. Anthony D'Alesio here with us. Fred Garcia here with us as well. I am Dave Simon. We're live on TSN 690. A UFC heavyweight has been cleared for a positive drug test. Turns out it was a tainted supplement. And he was cleared today, and I'll tell you who, a big-name heavyweight set to come back to action. Not only that, but Volkan Ozdemir. Remember that guy? He's the guy that just fought Daniel Cormier and lost. Well, he's got his next matchup set, and it's a former UFC champion, a big name. We're going to get to that and more. Ringside Report Radio continues. All right, welcome back. It is Ringside Report Radio. I am Dave Simon, Fred Garcia, Anthony D'Alesio here with me. There's a lot of talk of a 165-pound title in the UFC. They're adding new weight divisions, possibly. I think that's a good idea. You know, the jump from 155 to 170, it's 15 pounds. It's kind of strange because in MMA right now we have women at 105 pounds, and then women at 115, and then women and men at 125, women and men at 135, 145, 155, and then there's a jump of 15 pounds to 170, and then another 15 pounds to 185, and then 20 pounds to 205, and then anything from 206 to 265 is considered heavyweight. And a lot of people have said, well, that's kind of weird the way it is. Maybe we should do, 125, 35, 45, 55, 65 instead of 70, 75, 85, 95 maybe, and then 205, and then maybe 206 to 220, and then 220 and above would be heavyweight. A lot of people want to break it down, and I feel like if we are going to start breaking down the weight divisions in the future of MMA, which I think is where we are going, I think 165 would be the first one to fall.
Yes, let's go step by step. One division at a time. Let's not add all the divisions because we're just going to water down the product. But 165, hey, a couple of weeks ago I sent you a message on Messenger where I was going, let's make McGregor versus George St. Pierre for the 165 title. Make Tyron Woodley the champion at 175. He's the welterweight champion, and 165 could be something like junior welterweight or name it, whatever you want.
Whatever.
Exactly. And if anything, you got the 2 stars to generate the buzz for this new division, Conor and George St. Pierre. Now, the biggest obstacle right now, I would say, is that Conor McGregor is probably fighting Floyd Mayweather. But, hey, there's been a lot of discussion of adding weight classes. That would be the perfect fight to add one, I would say.
I agree. I think it would be a good idea. I think that the future of MMA is going that way with more weight divisions. The cuts are just too huge. It doesn't make sense. From 185 to 205, and even from 170 to 185, it's a big gap. There's room for more weight divisions there.
And that's
it makes sense.
And that's where there's the most talent. Because we always talk about, the heavyweight. We always see the same heavyweight. So, yeah, at the heavier weights, we don't really need more weight classes. You mentioned maybe 220. I'm not sure. I would wait a little bit before.
I agree.
I would go 165, 175. We have 185, maybe 195 at some point,
But not yet.
Exactly.
Not yet, because
let's wait a year
light
or
heavyweight
two.
is too.
Exactly.
There's not enough guys in there. I would do 165 and 175. I would just change that. That would be the only thing I would change right now, because there's enough talent both at 155 and at 170 and at 185 to fill a lot of those divisions, because there's just more humans on the planet that are doing MMA that are that size. Light heavyweights and heavyweights, then you get to some larger people, and there's just fewer of them out there.
And I'll tell you what, also a lot of, if you look at NFL, NBA, NHL, those guys are all over 200 pounds, but there's a lot of great athletes that are under 200 pounds. So that's why the lower divisions are often stacked of talent.
Of course.
These guys don't play football. They don't play hockey. They're too small to play those sports.
Well, look at Demetrius Johnson, the 125-pound champion of the world. No one can tell you he isn't a phenomenal athlete, right? But he could never play in the NBA. He's 5'3". It's not happening. But he's an unbelievable athlete. You're right. MMA is a great place for smaller people that couldn't make some of the other sports to do that. Before we move on, Anthony, I wanted to give a thanks to the pizza, right? We haven't mentioned that.
Exactly.
We got a pizza nicely given to us by the B&M restaurant, which was really good. The delicious pizza we had as a snack before the show. You have a friend at the B&M restaurant you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, that's right. We got Lucy from B&M, who was generous enough for the giving of this pizza, man.
Nice.
So that's it, man.
Nice all-dressed pizza from B&M.
We're still trying to get Burger King as well. We'll get there one day.
B&M is good enough for me,
B&M,
man.
it's
Stick
awesome.
with B&M. Delicious. I grew up in NDG, had a lot of B&M growing up. It's very good.
Quality, man.
Caesar salad is good. The The pizzas are good. The subs are
breakfasts
good.
are amazing.
The breakfast is fantastic. I don't live in NDG anymore, and one of the things I miss about NDG is B&M. So I'm very happy. When you brought the B&M pizza tonight, I was like, yes, that's what I'm talking about. I know Dad's Bagels closed, so you can't bring me any of that anymore.
That's right. Hey, they're gone.
That's too bad. That was one of my favorite things about living in NDG.
You got bagels and Indian curry food. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah, I miss Dad's Bagels, but what are you going to do? Thanks to B&M, though, they're still rocking. But they're not on Sherbrooke Street anymore, right? They're only on Summerled. They used to have 2 locations. I remember back in the day when they used to be on Monkland. On Monkland and,
That's right.
I want to say, Royal?
No, Monkland and Gerard, if I'm not mistaken. Somewhere around there.
No, Monkland and Royal. I'm right. Near Hampton?
No, man.
No, I'm telling you. B&M used to be
where the theater was,
Royal.
Right?
What's that school? In LCC.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Right up from LCC on Monkland. That's where B&M used to be. Thank you.
That was their second spot, actually. Their first spot was further up. But hey,
okay, maybe you're right.
Yeah, of course.
But we're both right. The history of B&M. We need to get your friend Lucy from B&M to give us a little bit of a history lesson. Nonetheless, I do remember eating there on Monkland several times, and eating there on Melrose and Sherbrooke when it used to be there, but now it's on Summerled and Grand? Grand, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Cousin Marco says I'm right. See that? I don't even live in NDG anymore, but I know exactly where B&M is. That's how much I love B&M.
You got to come back, guys.
I got to come back to what? NDG?
NDG, man.
All right, let's go. What's open right now? Other than... at this point, at this time of night, I used to say, we could just go to Dad's Bagels. I'll get a little Indian food or some bagels or whatever. But at this time of night, I don't know what's open in NDG other than...
Not much.
Amazon?
It used to be, Picasso right next door. Remember that?
That's not open anymore, though, right?
You're
Picasso's
right.
is not open?
No, they're gone.
There you go. That used to be a 24-hour spot. Oh, well. Well, thanks to B&M. Thanks to them for giving us pizza tonight. Feeding Ringside Report Radio. Fred, you like that.
Great pizza. Thank you very much.
Fred loved it. Okay, so I told you that there was a UFC heavyweight that has been proven innocent. Josh Barnett. Today, it was revealed that he proved to USADA that his December 2016 positive test for Osterine came from a tainted supplement. So he claimed the tainted supplement's defense, and he was vindicated. So, 40 years old, Josh Barnett, now free to compete in the UFC. My question to you guys is, who should he fight? Who do you want to see the great Barnett to square off against?
I'm not sure. You have any suggestions?
How about Fabricio Werdum?
That could be interesting. Yeah, for sure.
How about that? You guys like that, right?
I like
Verdum's coming off a loss to Volkov. I don't remember if Barnett's last fight was a win or a loss. It was so long ago, it doesn't really matter, right? But 2016.
I'll tell you what, though. Werdum versus Barnett, I would just be scared that Werdum would struggle to wrestle against Barnett, and Barnett would probably not want to go to the ground with Werdum. So Werdum, you saw him last week pulling guard and all that. I'm not sure Barnett would engage. Barnett would want to stay standing up.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think Barnett would want to stay standing up with Werdum. I think Werdum is a better striker than Barnett, and I think that they would grapple, and that's a grappling match I'd like to see.
I'd love to see it.
They've never fought, right? These guys have been fighting forever, and they've never fought each other. Come on, guys. That's a pretty good matchup I threw off.
For sure.
Right off the top of my head. Verdum and Josh Barnett. Yeah. That's pretty solid.
I'll watch
the fight. Yeah,
there you go. Fight. That's the fight.
Yep.
Put it together.
You're
welcome, Dana White.
I just think sometimes Werdum has some matchups that, could create some fights that are not always fun to watch. But hey, I'll watch it. 2 veterans.
Did you enjoy watching him get knocked out this past weekend by Alexander Volkov? That was rough. I tell you, I didn't enjoy that. I'm a Werdum fan, and man, that was just painful to watch. Volkov put a stomping on him.
It wasn't so painful the first 2 rounds. I mean, Werdum was winning those rounds. The 3rd round as well, and then boom, lights out. He just got
I'm not sure he was winning the 2nd round.
Yeah. No, he won the second round. Second round, he won.
It was pretty tight. I think that the momentum was changing in the 2nd round. Volkov, props to him, survived the first one that Werdum definitely win. I don't know. It's just some, like that pulling guard, trying to, once he passed between Volkov's leg, he almost got the takedown, and then he tried it a couple of more times, the same I don't know. I think Werdum is sometimes a little bit limited in what he brings.
I think age definitely is catching up to him. I mean, he doesn't have the
40
same...
years old.
You know what? I don't want to say that, but on the third round, he just looked like he was just gassed. He couldn't execute his moves.
His eye also was pretty bad.
Yeah, his eye was pretty bad, but still, it doesn't make a huge difference when you're grappling. I mean, he took his back.
He's 40 years old. He's been fighting since 2002.
Yeah,
he's one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. But, he's a former champion, and I think he's on the downside of his career, whereas Alexander Volkov is a gigantic man from Russia, 29 years old, and has now won 6 in a row, including 4 straight now in the UFC, beating Nelson, Struve, and Werdum.
Oh, yeah, he's
What
legit.
do you do with Volkov? I'll tell you what you do with Volkov. Throw him at Ngannou. You're riding a win streak. Let's see what you do with Ngannou. You just beat Fabricio Werdum. We're looking for Ngannou's next opponent. How about Volkov? Volkov is a gigantic man, just like Ngannou. Big Russian versus big Ngannou. That's a good fight. How about that for another heavyweight matchup? I got these matchups just left and right. You guys like that?
It's a great matchup. I think, I would have to lean towards Ngannou because I think with his power, Volkov is a good brawler. He's able to get hit, but Ngannou hits so hard. He just needs one good shot that I think would knock him out. But hey, I'm down. I want to see that.
He just beat Fabricio Werdum. That's a big win.
Definitely.
Reward him with Ngannou. How about Volkan Ozdemir? Did you know that Alexander Volkov and Volkan Ozdemir were 2 different guys? Unbelievable. Volkov and Volkan, 2 different guys. Crazy.
Volkans.
But yeah, they are. They're different guys.
But what if he was Volkan Volkov? That would be even...
that would be really confusing. So Volkan Ozdemir is gonna be fighting Shogun Hua. Shogun. Okay.
Shogun. I like Shogun.
Mauricio Shogun. You know who I'm talking about. Former UFC light heavyweight champion. He beat Machida in this very city at the Bell Center to win that UFC light heavyweight championship. I've got many great memories of watching Shogun fight. I saw Shogun win the title, beating Lyoto, and then I saw Shogun lose the title to John Jones. And then I also saw Shogun knock out Chuck Liddell. I've seen Shogun do some pretty crazy things.
3-fight winning streak.
Yeah, Anthony, what are you doing there?
I was just showing off my...
You're flashing your Lyoto Machida t-shirt that you're wearing?
Yeah, the Machida.
Yeah, Machida got knocked out by Shogun pretty bad. Remember that?
That was a good fight,
UFC
actually.
113 here in Montreal.
So exciting.
That was a
Well,
good one.
the first one, Shogun got robbed when he lost by decision, and then he got the rematch and knocked out Machida.
Yeah, Machida definitely lost that first fight and for some reason won a decision, and then it was avenged in the very next one. Machida's got a fight coming up at UFC 224 against Vitor Belfort, or as Anthony calls him, Vito Belfort.
No, Vittorio.
Don Vittorio. So Volkan is going to be taking on Shogun Hua. That's for UFC Chile on May the 19th.
Oh, Chile.
That's a good fight. Volkan, no time. He's coming off that crushing loss to Daniel Cormier. But Shogun, that's a winnable fight for him. Even though Shogun, I think, is coming off a victory himself. And I saw Shogun was interviewed, and he said, if I win this fight, I want a title shot. Should he get a title shot if he beats Volkan Ozdemir?
Well, he's on.
Why not?
Exactly. He's on a 3-fight winning streak. That would be the 4th. Former champion. There's no clear number 1 contender right now. I mean, look, Daniel Cormier is going up to heavyweight because he pretty much beat everybody that there is. So if Shogun gets his 4th win in a row, hey, you got to show him respect.
There you go. I agree. I think if Shogun beats Volkan, sure, give him a title shot against whoever's the champion, be it DC or whatever DC is going to do. We still don't know, right? Because Daniel Cormier, who's the light heavyweight champion, he's going to fight Stipe Miocic in July for the heavyweight
become
title.
The heavyweight champion.
Yeah, maybe he'll become heavyweight champion, and then who knows who'll become light heavyweight champion. You think DC's going to beat Stipe?
Oh, yeah, I got DC on that one.
I got Stipe.
Yeah, I'm going with Stipe again.
He beat Ngannou.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? It was crazy.
And you know what? I like Cormier. Cormier is one of my favorite fighters, but I don't think he's going to be able to roll over Stipe.
The only people that beat Daniel Cormier take a lot of drugs.
Unbelievable. How dare you? How dare you say that about John Jones? Allegedly, Fred. You got to say allegedly. Just wrapping up here, a couple welterweight fights that are pretty big that are rumored, not official yet, but Santiago Ponzinibbio taking on Kamaru Usman. That's rumored to be the main event for UFC Chile, so that should be a very good fight. And Rafael dos Anjos and Colby Covington are rumored to be fighting for an interim UFC welterweight title on May the 12th at UFC 224 in Brazil. And you'll recall Colby Covington has said some pretty bad things about Brazil. Rafael dos Anjos is Brazilian. The UFC 224 taking place in Rio de Janeiro. And it seems like Tyron Woodley is not in action. RDA is the next number one contender. If Woodley's not ready to face him, it seems like the UFC is going to introduce an interim welterweight championship now.
I guess that sells a couple pay-per-views extra. I'm not sure, but hey.
Are you mad at another interim championship? It seems
I don't
like a
really
lot.
care. I'm like, the champion is Tyron Woodley. As much as I hate his fighting style, as I made clear last week, he's the champion. So
this interim title fight, it's kind of like a just official number one contender spot, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's a
good fight.
It's a way to add a little bit of buzz, like that. It gets a little bit of more time on the network TVs like ESPN and all that. They might mention it a little bit more.
That's it.
I'm looking at the card, and it looks really exciting, the 224. But my favorite so far here is Mackenzie Dern is back at 224. Come on, guys.
How about the world champion Amanda Nunes against Raquel Pennington in the main event?
I'm telling you, the future is Mackenzie Dern.
Okay.
I said it.
All right, another Anthony prediction. Here we go. We're out of time. I'll be back here tomorrow night on TSN 690. After is there a Habs post-game show tomorrow? Do you guys know if the Habs are playing tomorrow?
Yeah, they're playing tomorrow.
Cousin Marco says they are playing tomorrow.
Washington.
In Washington. In Washington? No, Washington's here. Thank you, Marco.
Ovechkin, man.
Diehard Habs fan. He knows. He knows what's up. So we'll be on, Wrestling Uncensored will be on right after the Habs post-game show tomorrow night. Johnny North and I talking professional wrestling as we are 2 weeks away from WrestleMania. 2 weeks away from Mania. By God! WrestleMania! I can't contain myself!
I'm coming to watch it. I'm coming to your place to watch this.
You're invited. You're all invited. It's going to be a party. WrestleMania.
Everybody listening?
Everybody.
Well,
you just said
that's it, man. Everybody's going to Dave's house. I'll give you the number on Twitter.
Oh, okay. All right. My girlfriend's going to be real mad. My son is going to be like, what is going on? Okay, show's over. Anthony, what's your Twitter? Danny Brook?
Danny Brook.
Danny Brook. Follow Fred at Freddie MMA. Follow me at Dave Simon MMA. RingsideReport.net is our website. Every episode of Ringside Report Radio is available at RingsideReport.net, on our iTunes feed, on Google Play, and on our YouTube channel. Every episode goes up on our YouTube channel now, youtube.com/ringsidereport.net, D-O-T-N-E-T. The .net is spelled out there.
Soon live on Facebook, maybe.
Yeah, soon live on Facebook or Periscope or something. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what we're doing. Big things in the future. For Fred Garcia and Anthony D'Alesio, I am Dave Simon, and this has been Ringside Report Radio.